Right. Hi, Tracy. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. Nice to meet you at last.
Nice to meet you too. I think you were having some technical difficulties at your end, and we finally sorted it out. And it's good to see
Yeah.
you on screen finally. So, tell us a little bit about yourself as an author. How did you start writing? What do you do, and things like that. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so first of all, I'm 57,
Mm-hmm.
married, got four sons, all grown up, all
Mm-hmm.
like giants. They're all up here. Um, then I started writing many years ago
Mm-hmm.
when I was 30,
Mm-hmm.
and this book just appeared in my head one day.
Uh-huh.
So I got in the car and I was driving along, and all of a sudden there was this woman, and she was running through a maze, and I thought, what's that all about? And
Mm-hmm.
every day I got in the car, the story just grew and grew and grew, and then eventually it began to drive me mad because it was like every single day for about 3 months. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought, oh, you know what, I'm going to write this down.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started writing by hand,
Mm-hmm.
and just started writing, and as soon as I started writing, I couldn't stop.
Right.
Sometimes I used to go, oh, slow down, I can't keep up. I was going so fast. But I didn't think anybody would ever read it because I'm dyslexic, and at the time my writing was awful.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wrote it for myself and put it in a box, and basically left it for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and then 4 years ago decided to bring it out the box and start all over again, and here I am,
Ah,
working on my sixth book at the
right.
moment.
Congratulations. So, after about 20 plus years, I think you've
Yes,
published.
yeah.
That is that is like a long, long time after you've actually
It
started
is, it
writing.
is.
Yes.
But
Right.
I didn't have any dreams of being published back then. The dream to be published came much later.
Right, right. So I actually, going through your website, I was able to read about how you actually published your book. There was a guy that you met on Facebook who actually
Yeah,
encouraged you, right? So could
yes,
you tell us a little bit about that gentleman who I think he passed away a couple of years ago,
he
right?
has. Yeah,
Yes.
he has.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, David, he became, we joined a Facebook writing group.
Mm-hmm.
So I recommend it to everyone who's starting off. They're great. You can put a little bit of your book on, and people come and give you feedback about what they think, and you go away and start again.
Mm-hmm.
But I met David on one of these groups, and we became friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent him privately. I sent him the whole of my book, which
Mm-hmm.
was Lily and the Oracle's Quest,
Mm-hmm.
and asked him to give me his feedback. So he was the first person really who read it in full like that. And he came back and said it was really good. He loved it, and I had to get it published and to go on Amazon and do it. And I was like, oh no, I can't do that. And but he just kept encouraging me. And then one day I was live chatting to him.
Mm-hmm.
So we were on like Skype. We were having a chat, and
Mm-hmm.
he said to me, he said, I'm dying. So he said, I would really love to buy your book and read it in a paperback
Uh-huh.
before I die. So I was like,
Um,
oh, okay, okay. So he talked me through how to self-publish on Amazon. He helped me with the steps to get it on there, and
mhm.
and that's how I ended up on Amazon. Yeah.
Right. That
So
is so sweet of David actually to,
it was.
to just encourage someone just out of the
Yeah.
blue, right? Right.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was.
I
Yeah.
mean, probably he was just another stranger on Facebook group, and you probably wouldn't have known him, right? That much.
No,
Um,
well, we'd never have met him without the internet. So the
ah,
internet's an amazing thing.
right. So that is something incredible actually of David.
Yeah.
So coming to your books, and also coming to the fact that you're dyslexic, and you have been going through a lot of difficulties due to being a dyslexic, And from your website, I also learned that you were bullied earlier in your life, and it has actually affected your self confidence, and also someone actually told you that you cannot write because of that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how people bullying you, or people undermining your abilities has actually affected your confidence. And tell us a little bit about how, because I think it is the same, even now in 2019. I think so many people out there, they do not know what dyslexic is, and how to actually treat them right. So tell us a little bit about how people out there should provide their support to someone who's having difficulties like this.
Okay. So first of all, about dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
So dyslexic people don't see the letters the way normal people see them. Well, people without dyslexia see them a
Right,
certain way.
right,
So the best example to give is that you might look at a word and see B, which is a stroke and a circle.
correct,
I'll look at that word and I'll see a circle and a stroke down.
correct,
So my eyes are flipping the
correct.
letters. Yeah, so that means reading is much harder depending on your level of dyslexia.
Uh-huh.
So when I was 5 and my mum was trying to teach me to read, she realised that I had no memory for words. So
Mm-hmm.
you could read this is a ball on one page and turn over, and it would be this is a bat,
Mm-hmm.
but I would have to start back at the first letter, the first word, because I wouldn't recognise the word this, because I
Mm-hmm.
have no recollection of words at all. So it made growing up. I wasn't so much bullied um, as in I thought myself to be stupid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like a teacher told me when I was 13 that I couldn't have French lessons because I couldn't speak English and write English correctly. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore I couldn't learn French. So all the comments like that from other people just made me totally believe I was stupid.
Uh-huh.
And so I left school as soon as I could and I went and washed dishes because that's all I thought I could do. So
Mm-hmm.
it's taking a long, long time. I didn't overcome that feeling of being stupid until I was 40. It took a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, one of my sons, Benjamin, turned out to be dyslexic as well. Actually, much worse than me. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I recognised he had a problem straight away, and
Mm-hmm.
I badgered the school until we got some help. So, with the correct help, the earlier you catch a child with dyslexia,
Mm-hmm.
the easier it is to correct and to train their brain to look at letters in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So I would encourage anyone who thinks their child is struggling to really seek extra help. And if your child has been diagnosed with dyslexia, there's a book out there and
Mm-hmm.
it's called Toe by Toe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 5 minutes a day with your child. And it made such an amazing difference with my son Ben. So before we started the book, he couldn't read at all. And
Mm-hmm.
by the time we finished the book, he was reading quite well. So I really recommend it. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think I covered your questions. So did I miss anything out?
Right, yeah.
What else?
I mean, what was the title of the book again?
Toe by toe, as in on your feet. Toe,
Oh, toe
TOE.
by, yeah, toe by
Toe
toe.
by toe.
Oh,
Amazing book. Yeah.
right, right. So, how do you think that people, what can we do to actually raise the awareness among people, among the general public, to be sensitive towards any difficulties, any kind of difficulties that people may have out there? So how could we actually increase the awareness, or how do you think that people should be supporting those who are having dyslexia, or probably any disabilities, as a matter of fact, any kind of difficulties?
Okay. So well, obviously I'm not an expert on anything at all, but my first thought is don't judge.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see something and you might think this, and this is what my fantasy books are all about. And
Mm-hmm.
I know this is a chick lit interview, but I
Mm-hmm.
started in fantasy books.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about when we say things to people, like people said things over me and it sat on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say to people, don't judge someone if they say something back to front. Like I used to say my words back to front, and people used to laugh at me.
Mm-hmm.
Or if somebody writes you a note and it's all the wrong spellings, which is another thing I used to do all the time, then don't say, oh yeah, you mean this,
Mm-hmm.
people are go quick to do these things without thinking about why the other person did it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the most important thing for me with children is words. So like
Mm-hmm.
if you tell a child you're stupid, often enough that child will definitely grow up believing that they're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so I would just say be careful of your words,
Mm-hmm.
always use uplifting words and positive words,
Mm-hmm.
and try and change your thoughts around how
Mm-hmm.
you deal with people who are suffering from different things. But
Yeah.
that's all I know. I don't really know more than that.
Right, right. So coming to your chicklit book, right? I think it's two women and too many men, right? If I'm not
Oh yes, it is. Yeah,
right. Yeah. So the interesting part of your book, or probably the theme for the interview today, would be finding love at much later in a woman's life, and
yeah,
also testing the water before any woman could actually get into a relationship. So
yeah,
I first of all, I mean, before we actually even talk about this, I would like to thank you as one of the participants in our group author interview for March Chicklet edition. I absolutely love hosting that interview because I loved all your answers, and all 12 authors were really amazing. I truly loved that interview series. The interview series actually gone live on our website. You can actually have a look at it. So coming to that part, and when I read your answers to the questions, to all 12 questions, I could see that you might want to share a little bit more with us today about your experiences, or probably on finding love, and also um, probably some advices that you would want to give, or maybe you can relate this to your book. How is it related to your book? So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
okay. So I think dating a lot of people these days, unfortunately, get married for a long time, and then something happens
Mm-hmm.
that not nobody's fault in particular or whatever. Something happens and you end up getting divorced, or your partner dies, in much worse situation, and you're left on your own, 40 plus. So a lot of women find dating again at the age of 40 really difficult. Like they don't want to go on the internet, and they don't want to go into pubs, and so therefore it gets very hard to meet gentlemen. And then if you do meet them, how do you know that they're genuine,
Mm-hmm.
and they're looking for a relationship? Because what the two girls in the books discover, Alec and Susie, when they're dating, and there's lots of different dates in the book, is that a lot of the men they were dating thought that the word relationship was an awful word.
Mm-hmm.
So like they wanted to meet you, but they didn't want to be in a relationship. So the book covers lots of sad points around that, and a lot of very funny points around all these different men's ideas of what dating should be like later in life. So there's lots of funny moments in the book, but it's also the story itself is also laced with lots of sadness, because both the main characters. So it's written so chapter one is Alex, chapter two is from Susie's point of view, and then chapter 3 is from Alex's point of view. So all the way through the book, you're going through the two women's life with both of them, and they have different outcomes. So one ends up happily ever after and finds her
Mhm.
love and gets married, and the other one ends up still on her own, still dating, because that's real life. So I didn't want to have both my characters living happily ever after, because
Mhm.
that doesn't happen to everybody, or it doesn't happen quickly. It does happen, but not always quickly. So it's about more than dating. The book is about friendship.
Mhm.
It's about the friendship between Alec and Susie, and how they help each other through all the sad times, um, and how they encourage each other to do better than what they think they should be able to do. So,
Right, right. I mean, I am really intrigued by this book, and now I'm more intrigued about it because after listening to your summary, what happens in the book. After listening to this, I feel it is going to be an exciting read, and I feel tempted to read it. So maybe because I am probably also looking for someone out there. It's not. I'm 30, by the way, and I agree with you that happily ever after is not something for everyone. Or maybe even if you're married, one fine day if your husband dies, so you would
yeah,
still be left all alone, and you have to start the cycle all over again. And it's not like Disney World like kind of stuff that where you always expect for something to last long, but end of the day that is not the reality. So I really like the fact that you have written a book with a lot of realistic expectations. Like you don't give people false hope by saying that all the characters will end up happily ever after kind of stuff, because I think end of the day, it's about how we cope with life and how we actually deal with it. It's not so much about expecting everything to turn out to be perfect, I guess. So, coming to one of the questions that you've answered about your favorite author, favorite chicklit author, you also mentioned that you are attracted to your favorite author because she writes very realistically, right? So, tell us about that, and tell us a little bit more about why you think books or any kind of stories should have that realistic kind of a story. It's not something that gives empty promises. It's not something that gives the readers a lot of high hopes on lives and things like that. So
yeah,
tell us about that. Tell us about your choice of characters and the choice of what happens in the story, and why do
yeah.
you prefer it to be more realistic.
Um, I, it's definitely actually funnier when it's realistic, because you can imagine those things happening to you. And I think the thing about realistic stories is that if they're encouraging, which I really hope mine is, and I've had some feedback from people who
Mhm.
have said that they loved it for that, is that it offers hope.
Mhm.
Right, so you're never too old, or you're never too whatever your too is. I didn't want to come and do this video link with you because I think I'm too fat, So we all have our own things in our heads that we think no one's going to want me because I am, and then they list all their problems with themselves. So it, oh, you've gone. So a real book is more encouraging and more, and gives more hope, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give more hope, and also I drop little things in, like my favorite thing is don't look for Mr. Perfect, because we grow up with Disney. You mentioned Disney, so he's Prince Charming, and he's dark, and he's got blue eyes, and he's ever so handsome, and he's always rich, and little girls want to be princesses and meet their prince and live happily ever after,
Mhm.
and then you get into teenagers and you might move on to Mills and Boons and it's all love is wonderful, and then you might even hit Barbara Cartland, which is very romantic. But then you get to real life and all the disappointments fall into place, and I think that's because we give our girls the wrong expectation. So they grow up thinking that they will meet one guy, they'll fall in love, he'll love them, they'll get married, and they'll live happily ever after. And it's, unfortunately, although that would be wonderful, it for most people it's not like that.
Mhm.
So having a realistic book is about reinstating hope, because it doesn't matter who you are. If you have a realistic look, so if you're Mr. Perfect, this tall, dark, handsome, sexy, got a six pack, you might never meet him.
Mhm.
But if you make your list, well, I want someone who's kind. I want someone who I can talk to really well. We can sit and chat, 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 chat for hours. Someone who can become my best friend. So these are the things that were on my list when I started dating for the second time, and I met him. I met Mr. Perfect for me. So
Mhm.
that, and this, I believe, so no one's perfect. So you can look for your perfect for you because they're a good connection. Um, but there is no such thing as a perfect person, male or female. They don't exist.
Mhm.
So be encouraged, have realistic views, and that's what my book's all about, really.
Right, right, yeah. So, um, coming to talking about chicklit, the chicklit genre, right? Was
Yeah.
this your first book? Was this the first book that you wrote, or and also
No.
and okay, if it is not the first book that you wrote, why? What made you feel? What was the encouragement? Where did you get the encouragement to write this book? And yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay. So the fantasy books, they were the first one. I've got three fantasy books out there. So Two Women was the fourth one, and it was in the process of being written actually for a few years, because I wasn't sure I wanted to bring it out,
Mm-hmm.
um, because my other books, and also I do Christian historical novels. So I was a bit, because I made Two Women very realistic, so there are some steamy scenes in it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Not too bad, not as bad as some books. I've been told it's very mild, but still, a lot of Christian people say might read it and be really shocked. So I was like, I don't know if I wanted to get this book out there and
Mm-hmm.
conflict with the image that I had going for my other books.
Mm-hmm.
But my friends, I used to sit around with my friends. I've got three really good friends, and we used to sit around and have a few drinks, and we laugh about different things together. And they kept saying to me, "You should put it in a book. You should put it in a book. It'll help other women, who are beginning this process."
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I wasn't sure for a long time. I must admit, I wasn't sure. So, but in the end, I took the plunge, and I thought, well, it's part of me. These thoughts go through my head just as my fantasy books go through my head, just as much as my Christian historical novels
Mm-hmm.
come through my head. This also came to me, so I just wrote it and put it out there. Wait and see what the
Uh-huh.
verdict is.
Right. So, coming to reviews, right? I think reviews are very crucial for any authors because
Yeah,
that is something that any readers would want to look at, before making the purchasing decision. So, what was the most memorable reviews that you have had for your books? I mean, for the chicklit books and also for the other fantasy books. I could read about your fantasy books that I think your main character is Eddie, right?
Idi, yeah.
Idiot. Yes, idiot, because it's from idiot.
Short for idiot.
Idiot.
Yes, it is. Short for idiot, yeah.
Right. So idiot. Yeah. So what was the most memorable review that you have gotten for the chicklit book that you have written, and also for the other books?
Okay, so straight away for Idi and the Oracle's Quest, my my favorite review was from a stranger, so I didn't know who they were, and it was actually one of the first reviews. So I think I've got 91 reviews for Idi and the Oracle's Quest on Amazon.com now.
So.
So yeah, so that's growing. But his review, he said when he was young at school, like age 5, at the end of the day, the teacher used to sit down and read a book to them. So he would do a couple of chapters from a book, and he
Mm-hmm.
said from that moment. From the moment the teacher started reading stories, he fell in love with stories and with books,
Mm-hmm.
and when he read Idi and the Oracle's Quest, and I think this guy must have been about 50 or something. So he said from the moment he read Oracle's Quest, it took him back to being 5 years old, and it brought back all that magical expectation in fantasy. So he just fell in love with books all over again. So that was for me, that was just amazing. That was, I was like the best one. Um, for two women, I think, because they've had mixed reviews on Amazon.co.uk, because I put it out without paying for it to be edited at first.
Uh-huh.
So so any newbie authors out there who are listening, who find this odd, make sure you pay for an editor. It's so important, because they gave me 1 and 2 star reviews because
Mm-hmm.
the editing was really bad. So how since then I took it off. I took it off for about a year and didn't know what to do with it. And in the end, I paid for it to be edited, and I put it back on a few months ago. So
Right.
that's the other thing about being an author. You have to grow a really thick skin, because someone says something bad about your babies, you just want to cry. It's like, oh, that
Right.
took me 2 years to write. I poured my heart and soul in it, and they've just ripped it apart. So you have to grow a thick skin as an author, because those reviews are important. But I think generally for the reviews for two women, most women said that they cried along with Alex and Susie, and they laughed along with Alex and Susie, and that reading the book was like reading somebody's personal memoirs.
Mm-hmm.
So I had quite a few reviews like that. So I like all of them. They're all precious.
Right. So talking about editing, about getting books being edited, and also dealing with negative or probably critical reviews, right? So how important do you think editing process is for a book, and how important do you think beta readers are for authors?
Okay, the first one, the editing is just vital. So it's vital. So if you want to produce a book just for yourself and your friends and your family, fine, put it on. But
Mm-hmm.
if you want this as a business, if you're an authorpreneur, which is what I consider myself now, an
Yes.
authorpreneur, I've started my own business. It's selling books. Um, then you have to. There's no question about it. You have to have it edited by a professional.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do with my books is I pass it out to a couple of friends who are sort of my better readers,
Mm-hmm.
but they also pick out obvious mistakes and tell me where the storyline they don't think is great, and then I change it. And when that's done, I send it to a professional editor and pay for a proper edit, and she picks up all my mistakes. She's amazing. I have to
Mm-hmm.
say something else about editing though when we're on here. Shop around for an editor, because I have I have spent so much unnecessary money. The first time I got my first book edited, Idi and the Oracle's Quest, it cost me a couple of £1,000s. I
Mm-hmm.
had crazy. So now I have a lady in Ireland who does it for me, and she charges me £250. So
Mm-hmm.
is and she does an amazing job. So whatever you do, if you're looking for an editor, check the internet, go on books, go on books, go on Facebook book groups, and ask people to recommend editors. And that way you'll get someone you know is good and who charges a reasonable price. Don't just pay for an editor you find in the writer's magazine. That's where I found my first one. Okay, so don't go for them. Go for recommended people. Absolutely. And yeah, better readers, if you can get them, uh, they are the best friends to have if you're better readers, because they don't so much look for the errors in grammar and things like that. But if there's a gap in the story,
Yeah.
if there's something missing in the story as a whole,
Right.
they'll come back and tell you. So they are also really quite important to have, I
Right.
think, in my opinion.
So, I mean, being in this industry for about 6 years now, I mean, although I've not written a book in the past, I'm about to launch my book in about 1 week's time right now. So, I begin as a blogger, and I also make friends with a lot of authors around the world. So, that's when I tend to realize, or I see this pattern among authors, like, you just mentioned earlier that when someone says something bad about our books, and we just get very offended, or we get very sad about it. So, and that we need to have a thick skin, to be able to take it. But getting critical reviews is one thing, but what do we do about it? I mean, what, in your perspective, in your opinion, what do you think authors should do after getting critical reviews? Should they take that into consideration to amend the book and republish, and do things like that? What is your take about negative reviews?
Yeah, it depends what the review is. So if a reviewer simply says, "Oh, this was boring. It's not my cup of tea," there's not a lot you can do about it. But like with my book, Two Women, three people gave me 1 or 2 star reviews and said the reason they did that was because the editing was bad.
Mhm,
So they
mhm.
didn't say the storyline was bad. They just said the editing was so bad they didn't want to finish it. So I instantly took my book off, you know, because it's ruining its reputation. So
Correct.
I took it off and paid to have it edited, and I put it back on. So it really depends on what the review says.
Mm-hmm.
So because everybody, unfortunately, every single person that reads your books will read it through a different set of life experiences.
Yeah.
So some people will read your book and go, "Oh, that was really true to life, and that was really good." And other people will read it and go, "That's a lot of rubbish. I felt that was." Somebody wrote that on mine. I have a review on Amazon UK saying they thought it was contrived,
Mhm.
that I tried too hard. Well, there's nothing I can do about that review. I've just got to go, well,
Right.
shucks, she didn't like it. Luckily for me, there are much more people who like it than
Mhm.
don't like it.
Mhm.
So, so you just have to wade through. But the first critical reviews are really hard to accept. But
Mhm.
so long as they're written in the best way to encourage you, unfortunately they're not.
Uh-huh.
Some people are just outright mean. And if you're unsure about your book, is another piece of advice. I absolutely recommend you do not put it on NetGalley,
Mhm.
because the people that read books on NetGalley consider themselves to be expert readers,
Okay.
right? So when they don't like a book, they are harsh.
Mhm.
Like, they are really harsh. Whereas, say, if I read a book that I didn't really like, I might give them 3 stars because I know producing a book and getting this far is worth at least 3 stars. It is. Um, and then in my review, I might say, "Oh, I struggled a bit with that aspect, but this about it was really good." But that's me. But the reviewers, these professional reviewers, are harsh.
Mhm.
So until you're sure your book is edited amazingly, and you've got some good reviews and good feedbacks on, don't go on NetGalley until you're at that point. Because this is another thing about Amazon as well. Once that review is on Amazon, it can't be removed.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter that I've had my book re-edited. Those negative reviews about editing are still on Amazon.
Mhm.
I don't have control over them, so I can't take them away. So my advice now, like I would never do that again. I would never, ever, ever put my book on Amazon before it was fully, properly, professionally edited. So if I do get a negative review, at least now I know it's going to be about the story and not because I'm dyslexic. And I literally write my sentences back to front,
Okay.
and I need someone to go and sort me out and put it
Mhm.
all the right way. So, yeah,
Right,
you
right,
have, you have to accept them.
right. Okay. So, coming to promoting books, right? Like, how do you go about promoting your books, or how do you go about putting the word out there about your books and yourself as an entrepreneur? How do you actually brand yourself, or how do you approach potential readers, like, to arouse the interest among them to read your book? So, um, how has it been all this while? What was your experience with promotion so far, and what do you think that indie authors actually struggle with the most?
Okay, so I've been doing this for 3 years, and I've learned a lot. So I've even at the moment I'm in the process of writing a book. My sister's doing me a book cover, and it's going to be called "What Not to Do to Be an Entrepreneur." So
Mm-hmm.
in Yeah. So it's gonna list all the things that I really recommend you don't do, and then it'll have all the things that I recommend that you do, from my experiences, because I have wasted so much money. I could cry about the amount of money that I have wasted on editing and promoting. They are the two things that have drained my bank account. I mean, literally drained. It's taken me 3 years to get there, but I'm finally there. So there are companies that you can go to, and you can pay them £450, $550 promote your book
Mm-hmm.
for you. Trust me, I've tried them. I've got 3 or 4 sales for my $500. So I really
Mm-hmm.
recommend that you don't do much advertising with private companies. So there are
Mm-hmm.
places that you can go. If you reduce your book and you put your book in a sale, you can go
Mm-hmm.
to different book things, and we should maybe just put a list underneath the YouTube link later on. I'll just go on and leave a comment of the places that are either free or charge you $15, because they are the only ones that I recommend. Besides that, what you absolutely have to do if you want to sell books is advertise on Amazon. And if you look at my blog, tntrainer.uk, I've got a whole step-by-step guide on there on how to advertise your book on Amazon. And it's the only money that you guaranteed sales.
Mm-hmm.
You're not guaranteed sales anywhere else.
Correct.
So advertising is a bit sticky. So
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, grow your friends on Facebook, grow your followers on Twitter. So I'm up to 22,500 followers. So they don't all buy, they're all selling their books like me. But what they will do is they'll retweet your tweets for you, so you reach more people constantly. The tweets are going out. Uh,
Yep.
one person, one person brought my book, and she said she brought it because she kept seeing it everywhere on social media. So
Ah,
it was popping up on Facebook and Twitter, and
correct.
you know on YouTube, and I've got my blog. So she said, so she went to see what it was about. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the more you can spread it around, the better it is.
Mm-hmm.
Also, for branding, I like my Twitter and my Facebook page and my internet page all to have the same banner. So
Okay.
whenever you come across me, you can see it's the same banner, and it's a banner with the picture of my books in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you come across it, you'll know straight away. Oh, she wrote the IDI books. That's the
Mm-hmm.
IDI lady. You know, and besides, I don't really know too much about branding, except I think it's quite important.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, say if you were going to set up a blog, you should decide before you start blogging. You should decide what you're selling. So am I going to be doing reviews, or am I going to be offering advice? And don't
Right.
mix and match, and make your brand more important. But besides that, I don't really know too much about branding. Hi,
Right.
Steve.
Yeah. Hi, Steve.
Hello,
Hello.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Steve. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
hello,
joining
hi,
us.
Thank you for
hello,
joining
Uh,
us, Steve.
yeah, I didn't quite hear
hello
you,
there.
Steve. Hello
Can you hear
there.
me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes.
I
can you
can
hear
hear
me?
you. Yeah, Steve is my narrator for my IDI books.
Hi.
So,
Nice to know.
so yeah, it's really good. And that's so another thing then, just to mention quickly, seeing as Steve's here with us, is I approached loads of different companies about getting my book as an audio book, and
Uh-huh.
they were all wanting to charge around $2,500,
Mm-hmm.
for doing it and more,
Mm-hmm.
if you wanted something. And then one day Steve contacted me on Facebook because I put under somebody else's comment about an audiobook. Oh, I wish I could get my books done in things. And Steve came back and said, I'll do it for you.
Okay.
And so just to mention quickly, ACX, if you're an author and you haven't heard of it, is a company owned by Amazon, and you
Mm-hmm.
can do what's called profit share, so it doesn't cost you anything. So you find an author, or you find a narrator, or a narrator finds you, and then you decide to share the profits. So Steve, bless him, because we haven't sold many yet, have we, Steve?
No,
Um,
we're getting there.
we're getting there. It's slow, but it's building. So yeah, so basically they do it for free, and then they take a percentage of the sales,
Correct.
which is the same as us. So to anyone who doesn't know about it, we really recommend ACX, don't we, Steve?
Yeah, it's quite good. I've got over 130 now, 140 maybe books out
Oh,
there,
very
and
good.
they sell. They could sell better, but it's Amazon, so they big up the people they want to big up.
Well,
Right.
they're growing. Whereabouts do you live, Asina? What country are you in?
Myself,
Yes, yeah,
Malaysia.
Malaysia. Well, see, in England at the moment, they've just started advertising on telly, Amazon. They've
Uh-huh.
just started advertising audiobooks.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I think it's one of these things that it's going to start growing now. It's going to
Right.
get bigger and bigger. So
Right.
we're on the cusp, aren't we, Steve? We're on the first wave that's coming.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I'm quite a way through book number two, so I'm hoping to have that done in a couple of weeks, and
That's
then we'll
good.
see how that.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's good.
Right. So, like since the both of you are doing audiobooks, right? So, how I mean, how welcoming it is from the audience, how popular it is getting at this point of time. So, tell us a little bit about the challenges of producing an audiobook. I think it is way different than publishing the traditional books, right? So tell us a little bit more about that. I think Steve, you will be able to explain a little bit about that.
Right. Well, audio books. There's a couple of ways you can produce them. Some people just want a straight read, where people will just read the whole book, and then some will want them with character voices. With the IDI book, it was character voices, which meant there was about, I don't know, 60 or so characters who had their own different voice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite a challenge to remember who you're supposed to be at any one time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yes, it's great. It's great fun. It's long session when you're recording and then you're editing, you're listening back, and then hopefully when you've sent it through, you get the tick to say it's all good to go.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, um, coming to the readers who actually purchase audiobooks, right? So, who do you think are the target markets? Who do you think buy audiobooks? Like, when you produce an audiobook, who do you target the most?
Well, normally there's a lot of blind people use them because it's obviously a lot easier way to
Correct.
take in a book.
Right.
Anybody who does a lot of business traveling or a lot of miles on the road. There's
Mm-hmm.
a chap who I work with who's recently took on an ACX account and has
Mm-hmm.
listened to the first book and was absolutely chuffed with it, even though he's sick of listening to me in the office.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, that's so
so
nice.
it's people doing a lot of traveling. I travel a lot with work myself, so I do listen to a lot of audiobooks myself and find myself sitting outside either an office or a hotel waiting to see who's committed a crime, see if the butler did it or things of that nature.
Uh-huh. Right. Right.
I've got the same as well because just recently, also my son-in-law was the first person. He kept saying to me, this is before I met Steve. He kept saying, put it on an audio because I don't have time to read. But he drives to and work back from, so he listens in his car. And then also since then, I've come across a couple of women that I'm friends with who said, "Oh, I love to listen to an audiobook when I'm cooking or I'm doing the ironing,
Oh.
because it's something you can listen to and it just passes the time."
Uh-huh.
So I think as they get cheaper and
Mm-hmm.
as they get more accessible, more and more people will start listening
Mm-hmm.
to, and it's a bit like listening to the radio, isn't it? And you just get caught up in a really good story.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. So, coming to your books, Tracy, what do you think is the key takeaway messages from your books, and why do you think that people would love reading a book? Why do you think people should actually buy a book? I know that your books may not be for everybody, but maybe your chocolate books probably would be for women, definitely, and your fantasy book probably would attract teenagers or maybe
Yeah.
those affected by dyslexia. So, what do you think that they will be able to get out of your books?
Okay. So I wrote Iddy's stories because Iddy is a young boy who thinks he's stupid. Sound familiar? No. Um, so he thinks he's stupid. So it's only really by the end of book 3 that he fully comes into manhood and accepting that he's not stupid. He finally casts away. He grew up in a village where he was called names and bullied,
Mm-hmm.
and he believed them. So the story, and it is for teenagers. You're right. It's a young adult fantasy. So the story for them really is to watch Iddy's story and be encouraged by it, and don't let the words that other people put on you affect you forever. Put them off and believe in yourself and be strong. And as you know, for two women, it's about for me, the book is to encourage people, other women who want to date and to give them hope, that
Mm-hmm.
their Mr. Perfect is out there. And then the Christian historical novels, they're really about young women finding God and finding hope and gaining peace. So all my characters in the books that I've written have controversy of some sort in their life, and then
Mm-hmm.
through finding faith, they find peace. So for each genre, there is a goal to help and encourage the
Right.
reader in that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So, coming to reviews and reviewers, right? So, what do you think about book reviewers, professional book reviewers, and now we have booktubers as well, those who review books on videos and they put it up on YouTube. They are called booktubers now. So what do you think about the influence of professional book reviewers and people like those booktubers? So what do you think about them, and how do you think that how do you think that they will be able to influence their followers to actually purchase a book?
Yeah, I think if someone has gone to the time and effort to watch a YouTube video, say, about a book review,
Mm-hmm.
then there's a good chance that if they like what they hear, they will buy the book because they've already engaged with watching somebody give a review.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and like when for you, I'm a movie fan. I love movie fans, and I love the programs that have people sitting down reviewing a film and saying what they thought about it, and it encourages me to go and watch them. So I think all reviewers are important for authors. We can't get anywhere without them. You know, they're our lifeline, and professional reviewers have also um, come a long way in helping authors get out. I've sent my book off and paid for professional reviews, and they go in the editorial reviews on the Amazon page, opposed to going as a review underneath the book, as in a customer review. They
Mm-hmm.
go as in an editorial review, and I think they're really important because not everyone does it, but I do it. If I see a book or caught my eye somewhere along, I will go and read the editorial reviews and to
Correct.
see what somebody else thinks about this book.
Right.
And then if I like that, then I'll go in and read the first chapter, which Amazon allows you to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then I make up my own mind. But I
Uh,
won't read that first chapter if I don't think the editorial review is good and positive. But
okay.
yeah,
Right.
very important.
So that's like giving the book another chance. Like, you don't just stop
Yeah.
with editorial review, but you try to read the first chapter to see if it is appealing to you, right?
Absolutely, because like I said before, so everybody reads a book through different eyes and
Correct.
through different levels. That so you might get, and this happens a lot in fantasy books, is that somebody like Tolkien, he wrote these amazing books. I absolutely love Lord of the Rings, but with dyslexia, I can't read his books.
Mm-hmm.
That they are. I've tried. I've tried several times over the years, and I just can't read them. That they're written, for very intelligent people. You know,
Okay.
okay, so I can't read them. It doesn't matter that I absolutely love the films. I've always loved the films, but I can't read the books. So that's why I always read the first chapter,
Mm-hmm.
because I have to find out if the author is on the same wavelength as me and it's going to be a book I'm going to enjoy to read. Otherwise, it's a waste of money. And
Yeah.
this is the best thing about the internet, because when I was growing up and I was in bookstores all the
Mm-hmm.
time buying my paperbacks because I liked the cover,
Uh-huh.
which so that was, I used to go, oh, that's a good cover, pick it up, and then I'd read the blurb on the back and then I'd buy it. And
Mm-hmm.
so many times I got home and then I would try reading it, and I couldn't enjoy it because it was written in a language above my grade level.
Okay.
You know, yeah, I just couldn't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was one of the other aims about writing Iddy's story, was that I wrote it for people like me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
So if you struggle with a complicated book and with complicated languages, um, there are certain books you won't like, but you will like Iddy, because Iddy's story is written in a simplistic language.
Right.
Oh,
So
waffled. Sorry.
yeah. So Steve, since you are here with us, I was thinking about asking you the experience working with Tracy's book for the audiobook. Tell us a little bit about that, and what was the thing that you like most about the stories?
Well, the initially when we made contact, we had a discussion,
Mm-hmm.
and Tracy was very positive about what she wanted, and I knew the general gist of the book. I'd read, as Tracy said, the first chapter, and realised that this was gonna be a story that everyone would enjoy,
Uh-huh.
because there was something in there for everybody. There was some great characters in there, and I've really enjoyed the first book. I'm really enjoying the second book,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just some great characters in, and as Tracy says, it is easy to go through. It's easy to follow,
Right.
and it's one of the better ones I've done, because you could basically give it to anybody to enjoy the story, and they'll
Right.
be able to pick it up and enjoy it.
Right, right. So, coming back to you, Tracy, as we are nearing to the end of our interview session for today, what do you like to tell the viewers out there, to your fans, to your readers out there? What do you like to tell them, and where can they actually follow you, your social media sites, your website? So give us the links to your websites. Maybe those who are listening to us right now, probably they could, go on to your website to check it out. So yeah, what do you like to tell your readers out there?
Okay. First of all, I'm really grateful for everyone who's bought a book. It absolutely amazes me that people will spend money to read something that I've written,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it's very humbling,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it. And for those that go a step further and have left a review and gone and taken that time to do that, so many thanks. I appreciate it so much. The best place to find me and follow me is on my web page, where I
Mm-hmm.
do a blog. I might write something once a month, so you won't be inundated with emails. And that's on tntrainer.uk. And I'll write, when this goes onto YouTube, I'll come and leave a comment, and I'll leave my Facebook and my web address links there,
Awesone.
so anyone
Right.
can pick it up. Yeah.
Awesome.
But yes, just thanks everybody for helping me and encouraging me and making
Right.
it all work. So
So
thank you, Steve.
yes. Yeah. Thank you, Steve, for actually joining us for today's interview. That's really amazing to have uh, the audiobook narrator for your books actually to have us today with the interview session, and thanking you, Tracy, because you felt a bit reluctant to join us on screen, but you did it today, and I'm really happy that you could join us today on screen live for this interview, because like I said earlier before this interview began, it has always been my aspiration to actually bring authors on video, because I think the best person to promote a book is actually the author, the author himself or herself. So I think this is the reason why we've been trying to use video marketing to let readers to actually see who we are, engage with them, personally connect with them. Although we are not seeing them like face to face, but at least video marketing is something that we have already made available, that we can actually leverage on to connect with our readers. So uh, I think that I would actually like to thank you for that, because you're able to join us today. So thank you so much, Tracy. And the video will be live on YouTube right after the broadcast is ended. And thank you also to Andrew, your husband, who has been
Yes.
helping us out with to iron out the technical difficulties. So thank you so much, Tracy, and I think I will be purchasing your book soon to
Oh, good.
because I am really
Yeah, you sailed. Yay.
I
Thanks,
am
Steve.
I
See,
am
video advertising works already.
yes, yes. Because I'm particularly very intrigued about your the two women and also too many men. I think it's something that I could relate to, if I'm not mistaken. From what you've explained, I think
Yeah.
it's going to be something that I can really relate to. So I am looking forward to reading that book. And thank you so much, Tracy. I think we had a
Thank
wonderful
you.
time today. Thank you so much. And yeah, so we will be ending this call right now. Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye now.
Bye bye.
Bye.